Welcome, everybody, back here at Veil of Sound. It's our regular Sunday interview, and I am very, very happy to share this more or less 45 minutes or so with Hamish Glencross. Now, somebody will say, like, Glencross. Yes, the guy from My Dying Bride, now the mastermind behind Godthrymm. They released a new record a couple of weeks ago, and of course, we have to talk about that. So, Hamish, thanks for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be able to have the opportunity to talk about this new album. We've put so much work and care into it, and very much looking forward to checking out people's reactions to it. You put so much kind of investment of your heart and soul into this. It's simultaneously exciting and somewhat nerve-wracking when it
Yeah, I
actually
can imagine.
releases it.
Frightening, right?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, absolutely.
Is it now a little bit easier as this is your third record and not the first one after, for example, My Dying Bride?
So I think in some ways it's kind of got more nerve wracking as with this Godthrymm band at first. It was very much initially a bit of a love letter to the scene and the music of the past, and kind of really unashamedly celebrating our love of that music, and that was great, and really enjoyed that. But as we kind of went on with distortions and now projections each time round, we're wanting to kind of evolve as a band, bring in more influence and kind of push the boundaries a bit further. And certainly, having a singing component from myself as opposed to just playing guitar, that's kind of different, really. With guitars, you've got fuzz pedals, amplifiers, wall of noise, but with vocals, you're kind of quite, exposed, really. And then as grown in experience and with the input of the others, especially kind of Catherine and her vocals, really wanted to kind of push that side of things even further. And so, we've kind of grown in scope and ambition. And so in doing so, then that also means a bit of me where it's a bit nervous as to, okay, but how might people find it?
Yeah.
Trying to grow as a musician and not just kind of harken back to what we did in the past, which is still a great thing to do. It's wonderful I would get to do that on occasion, but I do want to be very clear that we are an evolving band that's very much kind of looking forward. Hence, with the Projections album is very much looking forward to the future, looking forward to where we can go next.
Yeah, because you're also not a tribute band, of course. However, the first thing that I always like to start with is the plug of the day. You can plug a band, I plug a band. I don't know how it came, but I also incidentally chose the band's T-shirt that I wanna push. I want to push also as a little kick in the ass. I want to push my friends in Ashenspire to finally write more songs.
Okay.
So, Hamish, who are you gonna plug, or which record?
Oh, okay. Well, so are we looking, to a record of the past or something in the future?
Whichever, maybe also something that you discovered lately. Whatever, push your buttons.
Okay. Just immediately, my line of sight just over here is one of my most favorite albums of all time, which helpfully have on a picture disc version here right now, which is the amazing Assault Attack album from Michael Schenker Group. And I suppose this is very much in mind at the moment. Just fairly recently, I had the opportunity to see Graham Bonnet performing songs of this album live, which is amazing. Even though this is one of the first albums I ever got into when, I was first listening to heavy music and listening to, a couple of albums of my parents initially, some Sabbath and Zeppelin. My dad bought me a couple of girls' school records from like a fair, and also could hire out vinyl records from the library as well, and one of which was Assault Attack. And it's one of the most incredible vocal performances on any metal album ever. So it was amazing that it had been so many years. I'd never seen Graham Bonnet live, and so I'd never seen it performed live, but he was touring specifically playing songs off that album recently. So got to see that recently, and it was amazing. And then Catherine bought me a picture disc copy of it recently as well. So if people are unfamiliar with that album, because Graham Bonnet only sang the one album with MSG, he was only in for a very brief period of time. But however, as I say, the vocal performance on that album is spectacular. So if people are unfamiliar with that, it's a great album to listen to. The production and the whole sound of the album, it's a very natural sound of a band. Just great instruments, great players, and great performances all around. So yeah, it's a pick from the past, but it's
translated into the present.
But it's top of the pops.
Is that something where it's like, I draw some kind of inspiration from that?
I would love to. I mean, certainly from a guitar perspective, a beautiful, guitar playing from, the master, Michael Schenker, but also then his tone at times, doing something that then, Greg McIntosh would also then go on to use a lot over time, which is that, kind of using a wah pedal, not as a wah pedal, but just having it just like left in a particular position to give this really, smooth, wonderful singing, lead tone. So, that's certainly something I've always loved. And then I would love to be able to say influenced by Graham Bonnet's vocals, but gosh, what a voice! So I will try, and I don't know, maybe you might kind of hear a bit of some influence in there, because it's a melodic voice, but it's quite a strong, rougher voice as well, and that's certainly something that I find myself naturally falling into in my own vocals.
Is that also something that was difficult for you to find your place as a singer, and not just your voice, but also your place in the soundscape for Godthrymm?
Absolutely. And yeah, I think you can hear it on that first album, where there's certainly instances where you can hear I'm doing almost like trying to do a particular kind of voice. There's a song like Among the Exalted where I very intentionally try to do an early Nick Holmes kind of voice, and thinking, that would be the most suited for this song. Another song where I even thought, I'm going to try and do a Tom Waits impression on a song.
Tom Waits is easy. You just got to use a knife, scrape it over your vocal cords. After 10 minutes, when it's rough and bloody, then you got it.
There we go. So that was certainly, an album where I had songs where it's like, I want to try this. I want to do this and try a different thing. And then certainly as time went on, felt less about that. And that's why there was a couple of songs that I was keen to re-record at one point, just as then growing in more experience and confidence as a vocalist. And so now, when looking at vocal lines, then we can try the different voices, being the approach of Catherine or myself, and we can try these different ideas, and it just it's a lot more range to draw upon, really. And I do very much welcome now as well the additional input from the rest of the band, whereas like Distortions was kind of written a lot more in isolation, really. But
also because of the time when it was written, it was
exactly
more or less a pandemic.
Whereas now it's a lot more collaborative, and the way we're able to demo things and write and work together, this means we can just experiment that bit more and have that extra bit of time to make sure that everything is the best that we think it possibly can be.
You've already mentioned your wife. I think it's Catherine, right? It's your wife, not your daughter. Well, your wife. So now she's also like heading or helming the final 2 tracks on the record. She also performs on several of the other tracks. First of all, how is life with a family member as a band member?
It's amazing, really. I should be keen to tell you that it's the kind of one area of our lives where I actually get the final word. So, and that's quite cool. But even then, she says that, and then kind of notice, well, hang on, actually, if you're looking at the album, she pretty much gets the final word on each album. The first album, Reflections, she does just a couple of guest spots, but she does get the last line on the record. Distortions, she definitely gets the whole last song. And then with the new album, depending whether you got the vinyl or the CD version, actually no, she's got the final word on each of them. So no, yeah. So,
and you also mentioned her doing some of the vocals. Do you think that her doing more also made it a little easier for you?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it relieves some of the pressure off. Where I think that something needs to be a more ethereal, beautiful kind of angle. Having her and her incredible mastery of harmony is quite amazing. So it absolutely relieves some pressure, thinking, okay, one section would be more suited to her, then fantastic. I can, try and concentrate more on the bits that are appropriate to me. But also, it's just having that additional musical input when you spend so much time on the music and various, kind of layers of, guitars upon guitars and, a lot of density in terms of musical layering, to then have a more fresh perspective come in with vocals, and that's just kind of great. Whereas it's possible at times, and I've certainly had it where I've been that locked in with the music, trying to break away from that and not follow some of the key themes. It's just great, definitely. So, and again, just the joy all over of having more input from the band. The band feels like a much more cohesive whole at the moment as well.
It's interesting that you mentioned layering, because there is something that I really like about the record, and that is the sonic carpet on which all of the songs are based. There is a lot of small little background noises here, a little detail there. Do you think that that is important if you make, and for lack of a better word, let's call it doom metal, that you have a certain kind of sonic carpet underneath it all?
Yeah, I think that's real. Really good to then just kind of have some of these subtleties. Really, I certainly learned a lot from working with Gregor McIntosh in the times that we did, in a couple of different ways. One of which I was always very, very impressed with, his kind of discipline in songwriting as well, and being able to have songs, and in this kind of big grand doom kind of area, but still be quite kind of concise, and and at times where there is kind of some repetition in there, and he would have more kind of subtle sonic layers on certain sections, which even at first I didn't really quite kind of notice as much. But when we were recording the Valenfire albums, there'd be certain bits, and it'd be like, wow, that does make such a difference. And it's something not even necessarily hearing at first, but when it's not there, you really notice. So I was always keen to try and have that kind of discipline with songwriting. Whereas I can think of bands, way in the past that did an album with Solstice called New Dark Age many, many years back. And there was a lot of repetition on a lot of riffs and sections at that point. And it's certainly something to be said for, not laboring a point and having something not overstaying its welcome. And that can be done in a couple of ways, with just, as I say, the actual, kind of editing process, but also then if something is a repetition, is it a variation on a theme? And that can be quite interesting. So it's a continuation of an ongoing musical movement. So at times a riff may come back in, but it's a slightly different variation on what had been before.
As you mentioned Valenfire, I'm very, very sure there are literally thousands of people who are eager to hear the answer. Will we ever get new music?
Valenfire, no. No, Valenfire is definitely done and done. Hey, but there's Strigoi, which is
That's
cool.
true.
So,
That is definitely true.
so the thing with
That
Valenfire, it was
yeah,
quite. I think it was quite, clear and good that it did what it meant to do it in the time that it did, and then certainly by the time the third album had wrapped up, it was like, right, yeah, this is. It felt like there was a degree of finality to it. It did everything it was meant to do, and certainly to keep things, interesting because Greg still wanted to do more, kind of extremity music, but certainly some of the influences and the kind of sounds were then shifting. So hence why Strigoi was the way to kind of move forward, and that's some great stuff there on those two albums.
that's true. So let's focus on projections. First of all, do you like looking in mirrors?
Um, it's less about mirrors,
No, 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 no,
but
no. My
I'm
question was, do you
yeah.
like looking at mirrors?
um, I mean, not myself. That would probably. I mean, yeah, it's necessary
Yeah,
at times.
I'll explain why.
Yeah.
Because when, of course, looking at the record titles for free records, we have reflections, distortions, and projections. All of these things can be done with mirrors. You can
Yes.
reflect stuff, you can distort it,
Yes.
but you can also project something with it. Um, every time, whatever you do, it is not necessarily 100% reality. Is that also something that you try to explain or that you are playing with these titles? That not everything that you see is what you think it is? I thought of it that way. Like a lot of people will have thought about Godthrymm first as, oh, it's just a My Dying Bride side project. It's a Valenfire side project. It's not. It's a very, very real band. And whatever people throw at you through a mirror, through a lens,
Mm-hmm.
is not necessarily what they get.
No, no, absolutely. You're quite right in there, and certainly, these three albums. Then yes, it is very much kind of influenced thematically, as you say, about the whole, thing of reflections, which could be, visible reflection, self-reflection,
Mental
and so
reflection.
hence. Looking at with the first album, reflections, reflecting on the past, looking at the past, distortions, and yes, how can you up the contrast, move things around, and how
Yeah.
do you, meld that for now, and then projections is so projecting forward, looking forward, where can we go with this, and so yes, it is all very much. These kind of visions and perceptions of visions
Oh, so that's the
too.
record title for the next one.
So I
No,
think
but just joking. I like that. I like this idea of projection because, um, of course, we are dealing with music that has a very, very classical sound. But at the same time, there is something in the sound of Godthrymm, which is clearly the 90s.
yeah.
But there is also something in the sound of Godthrymm, which is very, very modern. I think it's a cool modern take. Was that difficult to not repeat stuff that you've already done?
I'm not sure that it was difficult insofar as I feel like with every album completion, we were kind of already thinking about where we'd go next, and at times that could even be bridged with a single or an EP whilst we're dipping our toes into those kind of waters. So once the first album was done, then it was quite the conscious decision to then do different production values and a different kind of sound, and so we tried re-recording something, and also had a different song again, just as much to try production techniques and just kind of move around with the sonic, kind of setup. And so we're already thinking at that point of how we would kind of diversify more with the next album, and then we're real happy with the progression of that. So then even the completion of then the second album, same again, thinking about where we're looking to the future, because it's such wonderful creative process that all the way through writing and even kind of recording and thinking, the more ideas or trying a different approach that's something to keep on the back burner to revisit in the future. So kind of always thinking a step ahead. So already having a bit of a framework, a loose narrative over the albums up to now, with saying about the mirrors, the visions, and looking in that way, has given a bit of an overarching kind of concept, and which has been helpful to kind of give some kind of focus and structure. And having that has given me some more ideas for loose concepts in the future, where I've already now got ideas for a couple of different albums. Don't know which we'd do first, but where there is, a loose overall concept. There will be individual songs that can stand each on their own, but already I'm liking the idea of an overall story, an overall theme, and it's and that's exciting, and that's what I ultimately hit with the band. Even though it was very much centered around the passions, loves, and sounds of the music and the genre that would was so important to us in the past. It is a vehicle and vessel for our inspirations and lives of now. We're very much channeling ourselves and our emotions through this, and it's reflective of our life and experience, which I find myself on occasions thinking, would I have done something slightly different on a previous album? And Catherine at times calls me on this sometimes, where I think, I would love to go back and re-record this song before in this way now. And she's like, no, it was, a snapshot of that point in time. And
it had its time, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I totally get that. But
so she again has
there's so much that you can only, and there's so much that kind of comes with experience and knowledge, though. Yeah. And so much knowledge is from experience. So
and at the same time, although, of course, as I said, there is a way forward into the future, you also give the fans something that they, of course, want to hear. It's the second time, and we have to talk about it already on Distortions. You had that old man, Stain, Hope, Stain 4, however,
Yes.
And now you do it again. And there is... But it's a cool difference, because on Distortions, Aaron's contribution was more of a spoken word thing, spoken word part on Follow Me. Now, he and also Catherine, it seems sometimes, like, play with each other, because on Endure My Skin, it's his voice, but we also hear a lot of synth stuff. Was it important for you, again, okay, we if we can get Aaron, and nobody would say no to Aaron Stainthorpe, but was it important not to do the spoken word thing again?
Well, so the spoken word appearance came around on the album before, specifically because that song really wanted a spoken word piece, and I'd recorded a version that the others were quite happy with, but I just knew exactly what it would sound like with Aaron doing it, and asked him if he'd come and add his gravitas and that theatrical voice of his to it. And he came round, and
by the way, if you talk to him, I would like to hear like him doing a one-man performance of like King Lear or something.
Oh yeah, that'd be amazing. I mean, he's so theatrical in his delivery. It's amazing. So he heard the song as I'd recorded with my spoken word piece, And he initially said, what do you need me for? That sounds great. I'm like, oh, thank you. But we know what it'll sound like when you do it. So he recorded it, and of course it sounded fantastic. And he just said, oh, I want to do anything in the future as well. Obviously, just ask. The song Endure My Skin, the original idea for that song was quite different to how it's ended up being. It had a bit of the idea being that it was going to be a song that carried much of the melody and the harmony within the music itself, and vocally would be much more death metal vocals, and so it's more rhythmical with the vocals there, a much deeper death metal voice. And again, harken back to those old Peaceville classic albums where again you'd have so much melody in the music. Vocally would be a lot harsher. And so we thought we'd give that a go. That was the original inspiration. And then as we worked on the song and as it developed, it became clear that no, we needed to approach the vocals in a different way, not just in that one single kind of approach. So we tried a few different things, and then different takes from Godthrymm and myself, and mixed up together with some harmonies in there too. But did want to have that original harsh vocal idea in there. So that was the bit, and I'd recorded some versions, and again just thought, it's not really where my voice is at its strength, but I do know someone who's very good at this. so Aaron came round, did that section, and actually then kind of extended a little bit, and it was fantastic. And I then enjoyed doing it, and enjoyed again working on something creatively together again. And he was keen to do more, and then the idea came in for the clean vocals, which is the first thing you hear. But that clean vocal section, he then came back and did that afterwards. Enjoyed how that sounded so much, then wanted to bring it back after the death metal vocals. So it just kind of grew really quite organically into the finished version that you hear. So it was a wonderful opportunity to spend some time with a dear old friend and working on something creatively together, and it really felt like much more of a collaboration than just the kind of guest spot like we had before. So hence why very keen for us to perform it live together when opportunity allows. So excited for that.
And it's interesting that, again, there's a little bit of self-reflection on your part. And I like that. You said, like, okay, I know that I can do this, but it's not maybe the way that it should sound. Because Aaron is not the only guest vocalist on the record. You also have Jay Walsh from Centrix. You have Eddie Bailey from English Dogs. And they both deliver something that is really, really good, especially on Trenches Deep, on the opening track.
I think it's great on it, yeah.
How did you come up with the change of dynamics? Because let's be honest, the second part of it is like, the second part of that song is a lot faster, a lot heavier, a lot more blast beats and everything. Did that come before you got those two on board, or after?
Before. And funnily enough, that song was one of the first songs written for the album, really quite developed at that point. And that came from being in a rehearsal room, jamming together, and myself and Sean on drums initially. And we'd been working on slow, heavy, intense doom with big amplifiers, and it was quite oppressive, and we just wanted to blow off some steam. And so we just jammed out some fast stuff, which was just a way of us just to get out some aggression and just have a little bit of enjoyment, with the idea being we'll just blast something out for fun and then go back to the task in hand. However, we really enjoyed it, and we were recording all of this, and so because we're recording ideas, and the ideas can just crop up at any point,
Yeah.
and so going back, it was just like, God, that is really, really, really cool, and it didn't. That section wasn't attached to the rest of the song as we know it. Then that was a separate
Yeah.
session, and then we just thought, well, why not just kind of go off into a faster, heavier section there, and it's us, so it's and we're 100% behind it, and so even though it's a bit of a departure, well, okay, well, yeah, let's go for it. We want to push things a little further, and then it was just the kind of excitement of thinking, oh well, let's add an extra bit of authenticity to it, and let's just ask a couple of mates to just come and do a guest spot on it as well. And Jay is a very dear friend of ours. We go on holiday, him and his family and stuff. We're good, friends of very many years, very close, and AD Bailey. I mean, I've known him for so many years, and then he's super local to us as well. So it really was more a case of we've got this song that is a bit of a departure for us. It would be so cool if you came and did some vocals on it. Are you up for it? Yes. And so off and away we went. It was just another instance where an opportunity to do something special with dear friends of ours, but would be for the benefit of the song, and particularly the avenue that it was going in. So yeah, it all sounds like we just kind of hang out at the local pub together, and just come up with new ideas for songs and
It sounds like
collaborations.
friends. After like 3 pints, where's the guitar? Where's the drum set?
Yeah.
Let's go. I know. I have a few more questions before we come to a quick fire round. First one, you did a flexi disc for Decibel.
Yes.
One of the coolest formats ever.
It's so cool, and it was so amazing to actually have a flexi disc. It's like, wow. Yeah.
Have you yourself got a favorite flexi disc? Because I do. I actually do. But you go first.
Oh, favorite flexi disc. Let me have a think.
I'll let you think about it, and I drop mine. I still love that flexi disc that was done by Earache. I think 35 years ago, the ominous Napalm Death Electro Hippies flexi disc, which is basically only one turn of the 7-inch on both sides, with less than I think 4 seconds of music on both sides combined. So that's still my favorite one. I'm very happy to own that by now.
I'm trying to think which flexis I've had over the years. I seem to remember a very early Paradise Lost one, but I can't remember what that was from. A bolt thrower one, certainly, which I think was with, I just seem to recall, White Dwarf magazine years back. And so it's such a cool kind of format, and seeing I've got a bit of a collection of them now with Decibel magazine's amazing range and stuff like that. So it's it's such a cool, quirky little format, and it's so just kind of amazing to have one. I see tapes making quite a bit of a resurgence in and around, definitely. And that's kind of an interesting one to see. So I mean, I not got a tape player hooked up at the moment, but I see that becomes more of a thing again. So
next question, I think, is more difficult. You were born in Scotland, if I understood it correctly, right?
Yes.
So would you say that Godthrymm's music is more Scottish, English, or British?
Oh, good question. So I was born in Scotland, and I've got family history that's both Scottish, Irish, Welsh, even, and English. So it's So family history, British, certainly. I was born in Scotland, but I was only there for a very short period of time, really. Um, but as far as being reflected in music goes, my dad was always very much into the kind of British folk scene, and that would look at different kind of areas on there as well. So listening to like kind of Fairport Convention and Richard Thompson as a songwriter and guitarist. There would be old English folk songs in there and some stuff that is very much drawn from the Scottish side of things. So and obviously a massive amount of Irish folk influence, much more from my mum's side of the family. So surrounded a lot by regional folk music, and that was a big part of listening to growing up. So I presume really it would be British overarching in terms of family history, and fortunately being able to listen to the variances of music from all those kind of areas. And it was quite a conscious decision as well that wanted some degree of that incorporated into the music that we're kind of doing, really. And I think it's got kind of noticeable in kind of some sections more obviously than others. I know the kind of end sections of the first song on the first album springs immediately to mind. Monsters Lurk Herein, that kind of goes into that kind of territory, which in itself as well is quite Maiden-esque as well, really, because I know Maiden were looking to have a lot of those kind of harmony things in there. So it's so yeah, it definitely. I love when music is very much kind of a pocket reflection of kind of history and culture.
I know that live you have played some covers or songs by Sabbath, Black Sabbath, Saint Vitus, Sepultura. I understand all of that, but The Cure?
Oh, yeah. So that came about because we were invited to play at Whitby Goth Festival, and we didn't actually play it there in the end. But that was just the idea of we were invited to do it. We're not massively a goth band, but then what is a goth band? I suppose it's a very broad term. There's gothic style and gothic influence, but I mean, as far as gothic music goes, that's a huge realm of what could possibly be under there. And so we just thought it'd be really cool and interesting to take a classic Cure song and just kind of deconstruct it a bit. And some of these covers at times are specifically related to kind of live shows and thinking, oh, won't it be fun if we pull this out? So like one show in particular, it had our very dear friend Ben Ash, there was live guitarist in Carcass and Satyricon, and he's in Strigoi as well with Greg. And he was coming to one show, and we just thought, would it be fun if we did a Twisted Sister song, and he couldn't join us on guitar. So yeah, covers are fun. The only kind of one that we recorded and I actually played live a small number of times was the Pentangle cover we did of No Love Is Sorrow, and that's on our YouTube channel as well. But so in that instance there, that's taking a band by a folk song by folk band, but slightly interpreted for us. So yeah, the cover version is a cool thing for bands to be able to do, just to have some enjoyment of, have some, it could be acknowledgement of an influence. It could just be, in some cases, just for fun.
So let's turn it around. If you could choose any band to record a cover of a Godthrymm song, which band would do which song?
Oh, so so there's a a folk band from the north of England called the Unthanks, centered around two sisters, and they do amazing, very dark music. I mean, some of these songs are really, very melancholic, very tragic, and so musically, they vary it around a bit, but a lot of it's kind of pianos or strings, and they do some very very amazing stuff. There's done some amazing albums, Mount the Air, and that springs immediately to mind. Their winter albums particularly amazing, but the centre of it is the vocals of the two sisters, and also the violin player, also a great singer as well. Catherine's favourite band, and we've seen them live a number of times. So the Unthanks, I could imagine them doing a version of Pictures Remain of Distortions. I mean, which in turn is probably no small influence from them in the first instance anyway. I'm sure Catherine would probably say. So yeah, the Unthanks doing Pictures Remain would be quite spectacular, and I would also recommend people to check them out as well, because whoa, dark, depressing music, but in a different kind of area. Oh, beautiful.
So if anybody wants to listen to Beyond Fangs, of course, you're going to find the Bandcamp link beneath this video. I have one last one before we come to the quickfire round. And let's take out the second half of the opener, because it would destroy my question. But do you have a certain kind of mental image for the record? I got one, and mine would be, it's a dark November evening. There's a power cut in my house. I have to sit by the window for whichever reason, and there are a lot of candles around me, which sounds very, very stereotypical, but I would love Godthrymm music playing in the background.
Nice.
Do you have any kind of mental image when it comes to your music?
Oh, that's nice. That is a very nice idea there. Yes, I would, perhaps also then out somewhere very kind of remote in some, stone-built cottage or, barn or cabin with, beautiful rolling green hills and quite isolation, but roaring fire, friends round together, sharing music and listening to I'm pulling on different influences in areas of music, and people sharing love of music, different, kind of styles, stories of the past, galing each other of tales of the past. And so just, a kind of a, social, kind of connection in there, which can at times be a bit pensive and reflective of things, kind of beforehand. But, shared connection and communication through music in a, remote, bleak kind of setting, perhaps.
Sounds a little bit like a musical version of the Canterbury Tales.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah, I get that. So, Hamish, first of all, thanks for all the insight into projections, which was, as I already said, released a couple of weeks ago when this one comes out. But nobody leaves a Veil of Sound without going through the infamous quickfire round at the end. Let's start off with some easy ones. I think I heard that you play a Randy Rhoads guitar.
Yes.
So you have to choose between The Blizzard of Oz and The Diary of a Madman.
Oh, Blizzard of Oz.
Why?
I'd simply for me the first one that I had, and the kind of an initial, love and awe of that particular album. So Otherwise, you couldn't necessarily pick one over the other. So just purely
Mhm.
the one that I had first.
Mhm. Your friends in Paradise Lost. You get to choose between Icon and Gothic.
Oh, Icon. Oh, no. Gosh.
Mhm.
Oh,
I
God. Oh, that's hard,
know.
actually. No.
I never said I'm a nice guy.
Okay. I mean, Icon, I think, is as far as a whole entire album
Mhm.
goes. I think it's just an incredible, complete, just amazing um, piece of work. Gothic, of course, could say so much of the same things about it as well, but I think kind of broad impact and everything. Icon,
Mhm.
but I don't know. Gothic again. Oh no, that was hard. That'll change on day to day.
Okay.
Um,
So today it's Icon.
yes.
Mhm. And to complete the Peaceville Free, there is the other band that we have not mentioned, Anathema. Serenades versus Eternity.
Oh, Serenades.
Mhm.
Serenades. I think Serenades is just full of incredible dual guitar parts. I think there's
Mhm.
amazing harmonies and interweaving parts, and
Mhm.
I think it's amazing. And also the bass guitar as a foundation, which is still quite audible. I just think that album is just a wonderful,
Mhm.
wonderful piece of
Mhm.
work.
You get to choose between two non-English bands. You get to choose between Moonspell and Tiamat.
Oh, um, uh, so I mean, Tiamat, I would probably go with for Wild Honey, and Moonspell. I was only really much more familiar with the first two
Mhm.
albums, and I haven't listened to them for quite some kind of time. Tiamat, I've continued to keep a lot more up to date with and have
Mhm.
seen a lot more.
I don't know. I think I always write stuff down while I'm doing these interviews, and I don't know why, but I wrote down Scorpions, Blackout versus Virgin Killer. Could you choose between those two?
Um, I'm going to go with Blackout just purely for the song itself.
Mhm. Mhm.
Just
Um, as we were talking about death metal vocals, there is this Swedish guy called Ockerfeld who is quite good at it sometimes.
yes.
So you get to choose Opeth with growls or without.
Uh, so it's going to be with again just much more with the familiarity of the material. I saw Opeth uh, back in what year was it? But Bradford Rios, I believe it was their first show outside of Sweden at that point, and they gave me a copy of Orchid and with lovely handwritten notes in it as well, which I'd still have, and so certainly, yeah, I would go with that just simply because much more familiar with all that period of time and their music at that point. I must confess I'm not completely up to date with Opus back catalogue.
Yeah, I mean, like he has done some growls again on the last one, and
I
for me,
see.
it would
Is that the
also be
last will
very.
and testament? Is it called the new
I
album?
think it is,
Yeah, yeah.
and for me, it's also an easy answer because it just adds another dimension to the whole thing.
Mhm.
Um, Triptychon versus Celtic Frost.
Ah, ah.
Easy one for me.
Well, gosh. I mean, it's got to be Celtic Frost
Yes.
ultimately. Um, but
Nothing against Triptychon, but
I love Triptychon. But then going to see Triptychon live and then hearing the interpretations of kind of old songs and things, the way you can get it live is amazing, and
Yes.
it feels very much as part of an ongoing kind of narrative. It just real Triptychon is just where Monotheist was,
Yeah, yeah,
going,
exactly. Yeah.
and but but Monotheist, I really do think Martin's vocals are quite underrated on that, because I
Definitely.
think that was an incredible contribution, and I think amazing. So, but yeah, I would continue to be going out of my way to see Triptychon, and also I've just an absolute passion as well for the song "The Prolonging" as well, because
Mm.
just like whoa, wow.
I'll give you two records by The Gathering from Holland.
Ah,
Mandy Lion versus Nighttime Birds.
well, so Mandelion, definitely. Love that album. Nighttime Birds, I absolutely love the opening track,
Mhm.
and I'd listened. I was listening to it fairly recently, as the album as a whole, and the album's cool, and it really feels like it's a bit of a transitional album for what they're going to be going into afterwards. I love How to Measure a Planet, for instance. I love Mandelion. Nighttime Birds really does feel like it's kind of bridging from one
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
into another. But that, yeah, opening song, which name escapes me, is fantastic.
Would you agree? I mean, like Paradise Lost and The Gathering, both at the turn of the millennium, both did something which is basically commercial suicide because they went into a kind of Depeche Mode version of doom metal. Um, would you? I mean, like nothing against Paradise Lost, and I also love that Host record. I think it's very underrated.
Great album.
But would you agree that The Gathering did a better move on that with, for example, If Then Else?
Uh, Not her. I got If Then Else, but I didn't listen to it enough at that point. So because it was a bit of it was that bit of a departure, and
Yeah.
natural evolution. But I really spent a lot of time with the album before and loved
Yeah.
that so much. And whereas Paradise Lost, when they did Host. But also, I spent an awful lot of time with the album Ultra, which I loved so much as well, and which I loved, and that felt more of a kind of a bloodline and kind of kinship. So I loved Host, and I listened to that a lot. If Then Else, I didn't really listen to, but I'm possibly not given it enough chance at the time.
Nothing against Nick, but I just think that Anneke's voice lends itself a bit more to that kind of music. But that is also biased because I still think that Anneke has one of the probably five best voices in metal. Female voices in metal.
Phenomenal voice, absolutely incredible. So yeah.
The next two, the final two, are a little bit more tongue in cheek. We spoke about like background noises. So I'll give you two songs by a band that is very, very famous for it. The Doors.
The Doors.
You get to choose between Break On Through and The End.
As a song, Break On Through is the song. The End is only really, people kind of really want it for a very small proportion of the actual song itself. And which does absolutely create an absolute vibe and sets a scene, but as a song, no, you only kind of just want the one little bit, then it just goes off into
then it's like
something else.
Let's wander into a different planet.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, when folk want The End, they only want a very specific little bit of it. Whereas Break On Through is awesome. So yeah, that's a great song.
And the last one has to do with where you live, Northern England. You get to choose the United, Man U or Leeds.
Oh,
Now he says he's from Scotland. I don't care about football.
Well, football is not something I don't follow football really, but our other guitarist Chris very much does, and also given the amount of time I spend in Leeds as well, so it would have to be Leeds United, and Chris.
Otherwise, you're kicked out.
Well, I was just saying, yeah. I mean, Chris goes to see him. He's got the tattoos and everything. He's a full yeah full lead support, and I believe Sean. I think Sean is. Sean's definitely not as. I was certainly not as vocal about it as Chris, but so yeah, certainly with the rest of the band. Yeah, leads.
So, Hamish, thanks for all the details. Thanks for the funny talk and cool tidbits and stuff to know about the record and the band. Everybody, I've already mentioned it a couple of times, but I want to mention it again. Projections was released May 29th through Profound Lore. If you haven't checked it out, please do so immediately. Really cool record, really great vibe, classic, but also going off into the times ahead. So really great record. Hamish, thanks for the music. Your chance for final last words.
Final last words. Thank you so much again for the opportunity to talk about the album. Godthrymm is very much a band that we see as something we look forward to the future on where we're going to go next. What started off as a celebration and love of music of the past is very much one that's looking forward to the future. So I hope you'll check us out and join us on this journey as we look forward. So there's a lot left to do.
Thank you very much, and I'm already looking forward to Perceptions, the fourth record.
Yeah.
Hamish, enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. All the best. Take care.
Thank you.